recommend motion to approve the October 16th agenda. I have a motion. Motion. Second. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Balone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Approval of minutes. Recommend motion to approve the following minutes. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Balone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to board presentations from George A. Mitchell, Volunteer of the Month, Patricia Figo.
Patricia here? There she is. Yeah. I would like to recognize Mrs. Patricia Zygo as George J. Mitchell Elementary School's Volunteer of the Month for September. Mrs. Zygo has generously donated her time in Mrs. Bisecchia's first grade class twice a week for the last 2 years. Her contributions have been tremendous. The students eagerly await her arrival and ask to read and write with her any chance they get. Mrs. Zygo's commitment to the students demonstrates that she is deserving of this recognition of Volunteer of the Month. Congratulations.
All right, moving on to school update. Frog Pond Elementary, Haley Barchetta, 6th grade student.
This year our Frog Pond is off to a great start. New this year our Frog Pond grade level teams. Over the course of the school year there will be team challenges and character-driven team activities. Our challenge for October is to see which team can earn the most kindness tickets. Colored tickets are displayed outside the multi-purpose room. We have some awesome assemblies. The Net Show Assembly, which highlights the message, never give up, encourage others, and do your best. Perkatown Firehouse spoke to us about the Just a Fire Safety poster contest and hosting an open house. Guest speakers came during lunch from Math Science and the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. After school programs have started. So far we have kickball, freedom ball, running club, geology club, and math science. More fun programs from the Ocean County Library, Saving the Barnegat Bay, and Tucking and Seafloor are planned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From George J. Mitchell, Emma Snow, and Preston Sprague, 3rd grade students.
We are heard from Mrs. Actor's 3rd grade class at the George A. Mitchell School. The school year is off to a great start, and all students are working to be safe, respectful, and responsible. We celebrated the Week of Respect first. The Week of Respect, October 1st through October 5th, to promote the importance of being kind to others.
On October 12th, the West Tuckerton Fire Department hosted a wonderful assembly to promote fire safety. The firefighters awarded a trophy to 3 students from each grade level for their excellent work on their fire safety posters.
On October 15th, the 3rd grade students visited the Mount Mason Theater to see Dr. Kaboom, the Wheel of Science. The teachers and students had a wonderful time and enjoyed the performance. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Moving on to Students of the Month from Frog Pond Elementary, Mr. Troy Henderson, Principal.
Good evening. First, I'd like to start out with a student in 4th grade from Mrs. Baker's class, Frank Elwood. Mrs. Baker writes, from day one, Frank came in with an exceptional frog, as an exceptional frog ponder. He's showing he is a safe, responsible, and respectful student. It's a pleasure to have him in my class because he surely is a positive role model to his peers. Great job, Frank. The next one is also a fourth grader from Ms. Clarice's class, John Brown. For the record, John wins every year. John greets you each morning with a friendly hello. He always lends a helping hand when needed. John is very kind and a grateful friend to his classmates. John, you are a great asset to our classroom. We look forward to learning with you this school year. Great job. Next, from Mrs. Andrews' class, Eric Kolnick. Mrs. Andrews writes, Eric is a very respectful, helpful, and kind student. He's able to remain focused despite any disruptions and does his best in everything he does. He's a great role model. This school and the world need more people like Eric. Next up is Jillian Becker. Miss Arnold writes, Jillian loves to learn, and it shows every time she walks into the classroom. She is so self-motivated that she did research on a marine life topic and wrote an essay without ever even being assigned or asked to do so. Jillian completed the novel The Outsider by S.E. Hinton within a week and has already started on her next novel. She is proving to be a positive role model to her peers, and we can tell that she's going to succeed in anything that she does. Great job. Come on around, guys. I'm going to take a picture. Parents, if you want to. That's right.
Next up, from Georgia Mentioning, Ms. Denise Guido.
Before we start recognizing our students of the month, I just wanted to take this opportunity to publicly thank the Johnson family. Stephanie Johnson is a paraprofessional in our preschool, and her family took the time to plant several mums around the school just to beautify it even more. So I just wanted to, again, thank her for that and her family.
Try turning this way so I can see the audience. We are here tonight also to recognize the Mitchell School Students of the Month, and we're going to start with Robert Kozlowski from Mrs. May's kindergarten. Come on down, Robert. You're sitting right next to Mrs. Diamond. And if you can, you're going to look at your teacher who's trying to take your picture. I was in Mrs. May's room today, and she had whispered to me that he's the type of student that makes everyone in her class nicer. As you can see why. But one of the sweetest things you can say about someone. Mrs. May also says that he's extremely responsible and serves as an excellent role model. I think he's making everyone here nicer as well. Our next student is in first grade, Gabriella Shadle. As Gabriella makes her way to Mrs. Guinan, her teachers, Mrs. Ferraro and Mrs. McGloin, said that she's the type of student that takes risks. Now, I think we all know it's easy to raise our hand in class when you know you have the right answer, but when you're not sure if it's the right answer or you're not sure if everyone will like your idea, to take that risk and share is tremendous. So what a compliment to her from her teachers. From second grade, Vincent Lacerda. Is Vincent here? Let me say a few things about Vincent as he's making his way down the aisle. Vincent exceeds expectations, and that comes from Mr. Sink, who is also here, and Mrs. Keene. We know all teachers have to set the bar high and set high expectations, and what a great thing to have a student who constantly exceeds them. The other thing Mr. Sink and Mrs. Keene said is every morning he comes in with a smile, which is a great thing for all of us to see. Congratulations, Vincent. Sitting where I was standing and coming down now from also second grade, Andrew Slinchak. Come on down, Andrew, from Mr. DeMaro's class. Andrew's teacher is in the back taking pictures from afar. Mr. DeMaro, you can come closer and take a picture. Mr. DeMaro told me today that Andrew is one of the students in his class who has the ability to recognize when another classmate sometimes is feeling down or maybe not having a great day. And Andrew is always the first to not only recognize that, but to go over and try to pick that student up. Not literally, but try to pick up those spirits. Always helps others and has a great, great attitude every day in class. Congratulations, Andrew. And from our oldest grade at the Mitchell School, third grade, Stephen Hoffman from Mr. Parker and Mrs. Henderson. See Mrs. Henderson, I don't know if Mrs. Parker's here, so I'm not sure who wrote this. Maybe it was you, Mrs. Henderson. She said the most responsible third grade student ever. And there were about 5 exclamation points after the word ever. He's a role model, as teachers say, for younger students. And Mrs. Guinan and I talk to the third graders often about recognizing kindergarten and first graders exist in our school and that they look up to third graders. So to hear from your teachers that you are a role model for our younger students, I know makes us all proud. Those are our Mitchell School students of the month.
We'll be moving on with the rest of our meeting. If anyone would like to leave with parents or their children, you can get some cookies and juices. And this is the time if you would like to leave, you can.
Even if the children didn't get an award, they can still have a cookie.
That was the meeting, you're not one later meeting for the teacher. Because it's your birthday.
Thank you. He's sweet.
Okay, moving on. Okay, the SSDS end of year report. Mrs. Jacqueline Trizolino, Director of Elementary Education.
Good evening, everyone. There are a couple of required board presentations and approval that we are presenting tonight. Our first one is our Student Safety Data System, SSDS. This is the first year, this past 17-18 school year was the first year the system was used, and it replaces the former EVVRS, Electronic Violence and Vandalism Reporting System, and the Harassment, Intimidation, Bullying, Investigations, Trainings Program system. So they took those two systems, combined them into the SSDS system. The data that is submitted into this report is used for those various federal and state requirements. There are various incidents that we submit into this system twice a year. You had already board approved one formally, probably back in April, I believe. This is the final report that is being submitted now. When we look at the next slide with the chart, incidents will be those that were founded HIBs that we investigated and they were founded. They were in fact a HIB. And other acts of violence, vandalism, weapons, or substance incidents. Also, you'll see on that chart are other incidents that lead to removal, like an out-of-school suspension or an in-school suspension. HIB alleged are those that were reported to us, we investigated, and we found that they were not, in fact, a HIB violation. It may have been a student code of conduct violation, but it did not meet the criteria to be a HIB. HIB trainings and programs. Trainings involving not just harassment, intimidation, and bullying, but trainings and programs that also relate to any form of school climate, social skills development for our students or our staff, anything related to creating a better, more positive environment in our school system. Data is submitted for all three of our schools, so the Early Childhood Center is included in this as well. So this is our final submission. It has to be presented to the board by December 31st, so we're doing it this evening. So as you can see, in the Frog Pond School last year, there were 7 incidents, so 7 acts of HIB or violence and vandalism. In the Mitchell School, there were 17, and in the ECC, there were 0. I can tell you that for that entire column, all of those are confirmed HIB incidences, except for one incident at the Mitchell School. It rose to the level of a violent or vandalism type of incident. The others are all founded HIBs. There were 3 and 4, 3 at Frog Pond, 4 at the Mitchell School, out of school or in school suspensions. So those were incidences such as inappropriate gestures or inappropriate language that may have caused for a little bit more severe of a consequence. As you can see at both the Frog Pond and the Mitchell School, there were 16 investigations that resulted in an unfounded HIB, and 1 at the Early Childhood Center. We did several trainings and programs related to harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and a more positive school climate. Some of those programs and trainings are listed on this slide, everything from our positive behavior supports programs that are conducted in the ECC, our Good Eggs program that we had last year, several assemblies, concerts, school spirit days, all of those things that lead to a better school climate and a more cohesive school climate as well. Some of the various trainings that we did were related to myself being the district coordinator for the HIB program and our anti-bullying specialist in our school. The administrators have to be trained in that as well. Our staff and parent nights that we did, the meetings that I hold with our school safety team and our anti-bullying specialist, and various different professional days, faculty meetings, open houses, articulations related to that. A a lot of stuff going on to support our students and our staff. The other board approval tonight is our harassment, intimidation, and bullying self-assessment. This is a requirement under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. It has to be board approved at the October board meeting and submitted by October 31st. These scores do not get officially released to the public until the spring of 2019. They're a little delayed on doing those. And this is self-assessment. We sit down with our school safety climate team and our anti-bullying specialist, and we rate ourselves in 8 core elements that are addressed in the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. So these are our proposed scores, overall scores for each of the buildings. For Frog Pond, we're looking at a 74 out of 78. Mitchell School, a 76 out of 78. And the Early Childhood Center, a 77 out of 78, giving us an average score of 76. These scores are very similar to last year's scores. Based on those 2 reports, as well as other sources of data, these are our areas of focus for the 18-19 school year. On that self-assessment, we lose points due to the lack of training for our volunteers, substitute teachers, community school staff, and newly hired staff. We do a wonderful job at training our full-time staff, and we would do a training for our substitute teachers during the summer, but anybody hired throughout the school year, we were not training them as thoroughly as we were training those at the beginning of the school year during our professional development time. So, after every Board of Ed meeting now this year, I'm doing a substitute orientation, which does include training for all of our newly hired substitutes each month. We also created a HIB training video, so if anyone, like a volunteer or anyone's not able to attend those training, they will have that information given to them through a video, and they do have to verify that they watched it. Also, we lost points because on our school safety climate team, we do have parents on that team, and they are supposed to be trained in the HIB policy and regulation. And we did not do that. We trained our staff, but we did not train the parents that were on that committee, so that's already has been done for this current school year. So we are making some positive changes based upon that self-assessment. We also found that we do need to provide additional information and resources on our webpage. We are doing the basic required information on there. However, in order to get a score of exceeding, we have to provide more. So we'll be working on that this year as well. This year we implemented consistent behavior expectations for the cafeteria, at recess, and on the school bus for our students. Staff were given videos and lessons to be used in the classroom to present that information to the student so that we are all on the same page in both of our schools. We are doing monthly activities that support student social and emotional learning and positive behaviors through our school safety and climate teams. We have a tremendous amount of participation from both parents and staff, so it's really exciting, and they are really taking it to a really high level to get our students involved in positive behaviors. There has been and will continue to be professional development for our staff, such as morning meetings, empathy development for our students, and teaching those social and emotional skills in our classrooms. We are conducting classroom lessons for all K-6 classes on bullying, being a bystander, and shifting that to being an upstander. And of course, we are supporting our district goal and our school WIGs that are related to social and emotional learning. So a lot of stuff going on, and it's really exciting to see the involvement that we have in it. So thank you. Have a good night. If you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, HIP Annual Self-Assessment, Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, Code of Conduct. This is Mrs. Gisolino again, Director of... Is that part of it? Okay. My apologies. There's 2, I missed that one, my apologies. Our presentation of wigs. Ms. Ann Flynn and Mrs. Denise Guinan and Mr. Troy Anderson.
Hi everyone, how are you this evening? Thank you for having me. Okay. So we all know our district goal is a social emotional topic area, and it's to improve the social emotional well-being of the students, focusing on gender discrepancy, motivation, attendance, meaningful responses, and an overall plan for success. So at the Early Childhood Center, the teachers and myself use some of our professional development time in September, and we looked at some of our data, and we came up with our building goals, which is our WIG. We are planning to improve social emotional development of students through documentation and leveling of student behaviors using our creative curriculum objectives, specifically in the social emotional domain. We are also going to be working on improving staff understanding of those social emotional objectives within creative curriculum, and we're going to increase the percentage of students who have sufficient data to be leveled in TSG, which is our Teaching Strategies Assessment System. So how did we come about to that? We were looking at our TSG data, and if you notice, the chart up there includes 281 students for the 17-18 school year. When you add the numbers of children in that social emotional domain, in the below expectations, meeting expectations, and exceeding, you would get to 226 students, a difference of 55 students, or 20% of students that did not have enough data within that social emotional domain in order to be leveled. So in looking at that, we realized that we need a little bit more attention, not just in addressing social emotional needs of students, but in really documenting those needs and also working collaboratively to get a better understanding of how we can address the needs and document it within TSG. We also use something called the Teaching Pyramid Observation Tool, otherwise known as the TPOT. There are 14 subscales in that TPOT, and although 12 of our subscales, we are consistently getting scores of 99 and 100%. Consistently over the last 3 years, subscale number 7, Teaching Behavior Expectations, and subscale number 8, Teaching Social Skills and Emotional Competencies, have scored the lowest, running around 96%. Now you may look at that and think, well, that's not really low, but in a program where we are consistently getting 99 and 100% across those subscales, that was a bit of a red flag for ourselves. So the activities that we are going to implement in order to achieve our goal is that we are going to take those specific subscales in the TPOT and provide some additional training using our behavior specialist, our curriculum specialist, our social worker, and our family partner. And so we'll be diving a little bit deeper and looking at what we mean when we're saying behavioral expectations and emotional competencies. We'll be doing the same for the 3 areas of the social emotional domain and creative curriculum, and that is regulating emotions and behaviors, establishing and maintaining positive relationships, participating cooperatively and constructively in group situations. That's not really for the adults, but it could apply as well. We want our children to be able to participate cooperatively and constructively. We are also very fortunate to have a resource of webinars in the Early Childhood Investigations website. And then because we are GrowNJ Kids participants, our staff is registered with Workshop Registry, which has thousands of PD opportunities, whether it's webinars or workshops where you would attend in person. And through that, we can differentiate our professional development for my staff. And finally, we will be creating a Google file of relevant articles addressing the social emotional domain in preschool so that we can share information easily. That's it. Thank you for your time.
So to initiate the development of our WIG, the teachers participated in something called a data walk, where they were able to analyze all of their students, their current students, their data from the 2017-2018 spring. And from there, they were able to determine that, we really wanted to focus on those early literacy skills. So what's nice about our WIG this year is that it really hones in on what we're focusing in on as a district, as well as what the Frog Pond School is focusing on in as well. So it's 10% of the students identified an approaching range on the DIBELS, which is an early literacy assessment, or Fontes and Pinnell for the 3rd grade. That's kind of more of a comprehension assessment. Will improve their overall achievement to be a grade level status by the end of the year on the DIBELS or the Fontes and Pinnell assessment. What the teachers are doing now in kindergarten through 2nd grade, they're using the criteria that we provided to them to identify those students within the approaching range, and then they were also given some preliminary interventions that they could start working with those students on. The 3rd grade, they're doing the same thing, but they're using the different assessment and certainly a different criteria, and then they're going to be using the Fontes and Pinnell continuum as their intervention base. The assessment, what's nice about this is it's given 3 times a year. So right now we have our preliminary data, we're identifying those students in the approaching range, and then in the winter we're then going to be able to modify anything that we're doing to make sure that we are successful in the spring. And that is our WIG. Thank you.
All right, last one. So at the Frog Pond School, we're going to be focusing on the students who scored on the park in the approaching standards range. And we're looking to see that those students grow by 10% on their NWA assessment comparing the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So right now, level 3, this is the area that we're focusing on. These are students who scored anywhere from 725 to 749. You can see here that this is 27% of our students. Our current 4th to 6th grade students scored in that approaching expectations range. That's about 150 students, and it works out to be about 50 students per grade level. In math, it was 26%, and again, it was about 150 students, 50 in each grade level. So when you break that down across 8 classes in each grade level, it's the number's not too big for any one teacher to tackle. So one of the things that we're doing is we're creating these data sheets where the teachers are going to track just those students that have fallen in that range and come up with an academic plan as to how they're going to go ahead and move those kids from the approaching expectations to meeting expectations. Some of the activities they're going to be doing, one, they're going to be first identifying the kids, which we've already done. The teachers already have spreadsheets identifying those kids. OnCourse is a great tool for us to use this year in order to identify those kids. Then we're going to look at what kind of interventions are in place that they have, if any, and if they don't have any, why? What are the reasons? We'll have the data spreadsheet to track ongoing progress. We're going to be using the math and ELA on-course assessments to show growth. And lastly, we're going to have data discussion during PLCs specifically to these students, both in ELA and math. Thank you.
Moving on to the report of the superintendent.
Okay, good evening everyone. Thank you for the WIG presentations. I'm pleased to announce that the students from the Frog Pond Elementary School will once again have the opportunity to participate in a DEA after-school dance program. This is sponsored through the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, with funds that are forfeited through Drug Bus. An assembly for students will take place on November 2nd at 1:30. Information will be coming home after details are finalized. This year, they will be doing hip hop. It's open to all students, girls and boys. Special thanks to Mr. Joseph Coronado, former Ocean County prosecutor, for getting us connected with this program. We are having a special Sit with the Soup Monday, November 5th. This is open to all parents and members of the community. This edition of Sit with the Soup will be discussing HIB versus conflict. What constitutes a HIB and how do I report one? What is the investigation process? And what are the consequences for an HIB? The district will be closed for NJEA convention Thursday and Friday, November 8th and 9th. The student government from the Frog Pond School will be celebrating Veterans Day on Monday, November 12th. An assembly will be held at 1:30. We have invited local veterans as well as family members who have been in the military. The students will be creating a display with memorabilia and artifacts. The students will have the opportunity to ask our veterans some questions. It's a wonderful way to celebrate our veterans and for our students to learn from these remarkable people. We hope you can attend. Lastly, don't forget the PTO is having a vendor fair this Friday, October 19th at the Mitchell School from 6 to 9. Please come out and support our wonderful PTO. You can start your holiday shopping early. That's all I got.
Moving on to residence forum, agenda items only, please. Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express with each statement made by a participant limited to 3 minutes as cited in policy number 0167. Public comment on any item on the agenda at this time. General public comment will occur later in this meeting. Would anyone like to speak on the agenda? Seeing no one, moving on. Board work session.
Okay, board work session. Budget and Finance, Mr. Brown.
It's the most exciting time of year. It's budget time. It's beginning in Little Egg Harbor, so we set out our budget timeline. This painstaking process begins today and ends sometime in the middle of May. But the process is out there. The big point of putting this out here now is we really want to encourage the public to get engaged. You'll notice in 2019, in the early part there's parts where the budget is brought to the public for input, so please come out and share your opinions there. That's all.
Anyone on the board that is considering being on that committee? Don't all jump at once.
I'll follow up with you guys.
You'll be voluntold shortly.
You could, Nick, you could be on that.
I think that should
The next thing that we have are 2 new job descriptions. One is a night maintenance supervisor. This is a new position. It was already board approved at Pinelands. It will be a shared service position with Pinelands. In an attempt to be financially responsible, we are trying to have more shared services and share funds whenever necessary or possible. And we have this position created to assist with any nighttime activities. If there's events, this person can help oversee that. And once again, will be shared and work among both districts, both Pinelands and Little Egg Harbor. The second one is through a grant. It is the NJTSS Grant Project Manager. And this is a stipend that will be for 2 people. And once again, this is coming out of a grant that is run by Mr. Akampora. And then next, we have substitute increases. We have been diligently trying to get more substitutes. Mrs. Tresolino has been doing a great job with that. Anyone out there, if you have 60 credits or more, we would like you to be a substitute teacher or a paraprofessional, playground aide, secretary, or clerk. We are raising the rate of all of those. So for substitute teachers, it's going from 78 to 85. Paraprofessional, $8.60 an hour to 11. Playground aide from 8.60 to 11. Secretary from 9 to 11, and substitute clerk from 9 to 11 as well. And then we have district website questions. There were none. President's update.
Thank you. I just have one thing I would like to address. Last week, the Board of Education went to a workshop hosted by New Jersey school boards, and there were a lot of items that were discussed. There were speakers there dealing with the budgets. Lots of, I thought, very important things. It was one of the best meetings I've ever attended. But during that meeting, the Little Egg Harbor Board of Education was recognized on, once again, reaching master board status, which is very rare for boards to achieve. So I just wanted to thank all of my peers here of achieving that status again. I just wanted to read the plaque real quick. New Jersey School Board Association Board Member Academy, Little Egg Harbor Ward Township Board of Education, having successfully completed the requirements prescribed by the New Jersey School Board Association Board Member Academy, is hereby recognized for achieving board certification in September 2018. Just wanted to share that with you.
Awards is next week. If you are attending any of the events, please let Mrs. Rosenberg know. And our next Board of Education meeting will be held November 12th in this room.
Thank you. Finance, recommend motion to approve finance items A through X. Have a motion.
Motion.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yeah.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Facilities, recommend motion to approve facilities item A. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yeah.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Technology items. Recommend motion to approve technology items A and B. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
New business, we do have new motions. Recommend motion to amend the agenda to approve the following recommendations of the superintendent of schools. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the following days without pay for staff. Jackie Eng, evening custodian. George A. Mitchell, 10/11 through 10/26/2018, 13 days without pay. Alex Hernandez, part-time special education paraprofessional. George A. Mitchell, that's 10/29 and 10/30, 2 days without pay. And Nadine Paretsky, school nurse, Frog Pond Elementary, 4/8, 4/9, 4/10, in 2019, 3 days without pay. And Pamela Sharkey, 5th grade special education teacher, Frog Pond, 6/13/14 of 2019, that's 2 days without pay. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Ms. Palin?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve the personal unpaid leave of absence of Jacqueline Anderson, Master Teacher, RCW ECC, beginning 9/1/2018 through 12/21/2018. May I have a motion?
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yeah.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve a stipend from 9/1/2018 through 12/30/2018, the amount of $1,200 per month for Mr. Cheryl Yatora, Master Teacher, RCW ECC, for a total of $4,800. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolved that the Board of Education approve the termination of employee number 5904, effective 10/16/2018. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to personnel, recommend motion to approve personnel items 1 through 11. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Palin? Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
HIB, recommend motion to approve harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases as per executive session. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Dowling?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Policies and procedures. Recommend motion to approve policies and procedures items A through K. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malone?
Yes, abstain on E.
Thank you. Dr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Molesky?
Yes.
Mr. Moncrief?
Yes.
Mrs. Fallon? Mr. Dahlia?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I believe are we at informational items?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the following items are being presented for informational purposes. Public comment. The floor is now open to members of the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express each statement made by a participant limited to 3 minutes as cited in policy number 0167. There is a sign issue located on the podium. Please sign in before you speak.
Nora Maloney, 865 Regenttown Road. Good evening. I'm Nora Maloney, and I'm president of the Little Egg Harbor Township Education Association. I'm proud to represent 156 members who make our school great. Last night, we had our first fact-finding session. This state-appointed fact finder tried to mediate a settlement. Fact-finding can be a long, expensive process, and we were hopeful that last night's session might move us closer to a settlement. Once again, we came away frustrated and disappointed. We are not the problem. We've been willing to talk. We've been willing to negotiate. We've even been willing to share some of the costs. Negotiations isn't drawing a line in the sand and refusing to cross it. Negotiations includes give and take on both sides. We've been giving and giving. Our salaries are frozen, and with increasing mandatory health benefit deductions, our take-home pay is decreasing each year. It's time for the board to stop talking and meet us in the middle. To give you some perspective about how difficult it is for school staff to make ends meet, I asked a few members to share their struggles.
Carter Baker, 116 Cayuga Drive. I have been teaching in Little Egg Harbor School District since 2004, and I'm also a resident of this town. Over the last 14 years, I've put my all into this job, and I'm a teacher that has consistently scored high on my student growth percentile. I just compared my 2012 paycheck with my 2018 paycheck, and it hit me hard when I realized that I'm only making about $100 more a check. It's $100. Is this my worth? As a teacher living on a teacher's salary, raising 2 children on my own, I had to work 2 jobs over the years just for basic living expenses. You don't know the struggle I've had to go through to pay my bills. I put out so much energy and effort trying to mold these children for the future, and then I go home and say, how will I take care of my bills? Shortly before I lost my son, I stopped working 2 jobs. I'm now at the point that I work even harder as a teacher due to changing expectations and can't work 2 jobs. As of December, I will have to take care of my mother and my daughter on my salary. I work even harder, and my child has to help support the household. How come she has to help support? Why should she have to help support the household? I'm the mother. I continue to work hard for these children to make sure that they have what they need educationally. At what point are you going to take care of me and the rest of these teachers? You are worth more than $100.
Marks and 35 Rivercrest Drive. I'm Marcy and I've just begun my 11th year of teaching, and I'm a lifelong resident of Little Lake Harbor. My husband and I hope to one day start a family and be able to raise them in this town and bring them to our schools. However, with the increasing cost of living and the shrinking paychecks due to Chapter 78, this dream is becoming more and more difficult. With my husband's diagnosis last year of brain cancer, our finances have become a growing concern. Last year I took on 3 different jobs in addition to teaching to help my family make ends meet. Teaching requires an incredible amount of work beyond the contractual hours, so finding time to work these additional jobs takes time away from my family. Last year, my husband needed assistance which I was not around to provide, which caused us to have his mother, move in with us. It was my hope that this school year, with a bump in pay for my continued education, I would be able to give up some of the outside work and focus more on my family. Unfortunately, due to the loss of income from Chapter 78, causing me to take home less than I did last year, I will need to seek additional employment this year as well. As if having a loved one battling cancer isn't enough stress, I've been faced with stress caused by the unforeseen and frankly unfair increase in our health insurance contributions due to Chapter 78. This unnecessary additional stress is beginning to take its toll on me. Please note that there's no way that my family or I can take on any kind of significant increase in these deductions. I need every dollar of my hard-earned paycheck. Please choose to do what's best for your staff and our families by maintaining Chapter 78 relief and beginning to actually negotiate. Thank you.
Board members, think about what you heard here tonight. Show you respect the work we do on behalf of our students. The 156 members of the Little Lake Harbor Township Education Association are united in our quest for a fair contract. We can't continue the current path. We are counting on you to do the right thing for our staff, our schools, and our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this contract situation's kind of got me irate, but it's not. It's irate at the community again for the years and years of neglect that the community has showed, where we've had, what was it, 15 and 17 years where the budget went down before the 2% went in. And I understand all the struggle and the cost. My biggest concern that's really fighting me right now, without knowing details, because I'm nobody. I mean, my wife's a teacher and I'm running for board, but right now I'm just here as a nobody. And I read the stupid Facebook, and I used to comment on it all the time, and I've kind of backed off a little bit because it gets me ridiculously irate. We've finally reached a point, after years of the community, and not just the community, like nationwide, especially New Jersey, being anti-teacher. And we finally turned the corner where we're pro-teacher. You see more and more people coming out pro-teacher, pro-teacher, pro-teacher. And I am concerned that this contract is going to, and not the contract, I'm sorry, the contract battle and what went on outside yesterday. I just don't want the public turning against you guys. It really scares the hell out of me, to be honest with you, because I see some of the comments and I see, it drives me nuts. Like, I wish it was like next year and I could help me, you know, like right now I can't. The only thing I can ask, like what part, I know that negotiations are private and either side could speak, but what part of it is public record that we could have facts? Like, is there a comparison for sake, or what this 78 thing
So
actually
right now
is?
we're in fact finding, so
Right.
it's not, everything is operable.
Right.
So I do have copies of information from our attorney that we've been using and some comparables in the county, and you're welcome to them, and I have additional ones too.
Does that explain that the 78, what is the title, what is it, what is it called?
It's just some information regarding comparables of our district salary and the comparables over the county of who's paying tier 4 and what their raises have been.
Tier 4 is,
And we really can't get into too much detail.
Yeah,
right now,
I know, I
because
just-
It's only,
so, okay.
it's public comment, we really can't, but if you, once you read through them, if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact Nick or myself.
Okay, I appreciate it. I gotta read through all this stuff. But I definitely want to find a solution to keep positives with the district and with the teachers, and I don't want the public, that's my biggest thing, because we finally have traction, and I just don't want it going backwards. I saw some of the comments and some of the stuff, and they've got some of the administrators looking at some. But, you know, everybody thinks that I don't know what to say, but I keep getting in my ear, go say this, go say this. I don't know what to say. Because maybe now I will, I don't know. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Vance Rosenberg. I'm an employee and also live in the district. Yes. I really wasn't prepared to say anything this evening, but I have to say I'm a little bit perturbed. I'm a member of the non-aligned staff, and I've been paying for my insurance Tier 4 since day one, okay, which is a year prior to the teachers and the associations, and we're still continuing to pay more and more each year. Okay, and I just want to make that clear to everybody. We started before, and we're continuing to go up in price. And there were several years we did not get raises because of it. Okay, we are lower paid than the teachers. Okay, fair is fair.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Trina Riegelman, Energy Manager for the Little Egg Harbor School District, which is why I'm here today. I just wanted to bring to your attention two new programs that we're bringing to the school district this year, which are very exciting. One is the Trex company, which you probably all know about, the decking that we all can get. Well, they collect from us grocery bags and bread bags and any kind of plastics, and they make it into the decking. And if the district schools are in 3 different categories, so that we could technically win in each category and have a bench made from the plastic that we hand in. So we're trying to get rid of these plastic bags. And if you walk up to the 5th grade wing, it hasn't even started yet. It doesn't start until the 15th of November. It is full with plastic. We have to bag it up, we have to weigh it, and then take it either to the Acme or Kohl's or Target. But how exciting is it that we will get all of this plastic off the streets? So I'm asking you to bring your plastic into the school, and we will put it as part of our stuff. I've already said, and I've said it to the entire staff, if we don't win, I will pay to have benches. And I believe Mr. Brown has said that if we get 500 pounds, he will pay. So we will at least get 500 pounds. But my point is that the students need to see that what they will do from November 15th till April 15th is worth something, that it really made a difference. So we will have benches next year in all 3 of our schools, I'm telling you, without a doubt. So that's number 1. Number 2, one of our teachers, Regina Nielsen, got in touch with me this summer, and she told me that Crayola has this program. And she said, look it up. So I did, and I immediately said, we're doing this. All those markers that we use, Crayola wants them back. Why? Because they're going to make them into fuel. Fuel. They will make the markers that we send them, and they will pay to have them sent back to them. So any kind of marker, it doesn't have to be Crayola. It can be a Sharpie, it can be a highlighter. Bring them in. Mrs. Nielsen is collecting them in her room. Mrs. Eastburn is collecting them at Mitchell. And I forget who's collecting them at the... Oh, Miss Ianco is collecting them at Mitchell, at the ECC. Again, the kids will see that those markers that we normally just throw out when they don't work anymore are now going to be made into fuel and recycled. So the big push this year in the district is recycling as far as I'm concerned. So remember, every month when you come into your meetings, you can bring those plastic bags and we'll be more than happy to take them off your hands. And the markers, you can do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody's been waiting patiently.
Jody Platty, PTO president. On a personal note, I just want to say I apologize last year for my absence. My family and I experienced a house fire and we were displaced for 5 months, so it was all consuming. But I'm back, things are back to normal, so I'm here to update you on our PTO business. We are pleased to announce that our budget was approved in June, and once again, we will be delivering donations for recess equipment, for our school nurses, and for the art department for our district this year. We will be sending wish lists to each department so that we can provide them with whatever they need. In September, we delivered folders and planners to all of our district students. This month, we are finishing up our Kid Stuff Coupon Book fundraiser, and we are looking forward to hosting our first fall vendor fair this Friday, October 19th from 6 to 9 in the George Mitchell Multipurpose Room. There are over 30 local vendors already booked who are supporting our fair, and they will be selling their crafts and creations. Stop by our bake sale table for some delicious treats. Also, the PTO is hosting an informal meet and greet night on October 23rd at 7 o'clock in this room. This is a great way to come and find out what we do and how to get involved. Next month, we will be hosting our second annual Designer Bag Bingo on Friday, November 16th from 6 to 9 in the Frog Pond NPR. Advance tickets are on sale now, and this is sure to be a fun night with some great designer prizes. Our next PTO public meeting will be Tuesday, November 13th at 7 o'clock in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I just have a quick question for the board. I know we're having serious issues with the contracts, but I'm wondering how you guys can approve new positions if the contract's not set. Like, where's the money coming from for the shared position that you were discussing, or shared services with Highlands, and also the part-time security guard?
They're all still within our budget. So we had some, as you saw tonight in the agenda, we did have some terminations, and we've had some resignations recently in some departments. So we're still within our budget. And then the safety position is something that we're doing through the township.
Anyone else? Before we go to board forum, please speak.
Shared night custodian position was approved at Highlands. I thought the job description was able to be made, but the position itself was not approved.
That's the purpose of approving the job description.
So
then the next step would be to post. We haven't posted it yet because we're waiting for it to be approved here as the other half is shared.
So technically the position is approved to be a position?
Yes.
And that person's supposed to oversee the middle school currently?
The junior high,
the
TCUs, and then the 3 buildings here, and the staff that are involved in that second shift.
And why is that position needed when it hasn't been recast?
For an array of reasons. As I said, we've had some breakage in both departments, and we wanted...
which departments?
In maintenance custodial facilities overall. So we felt it was more effective to have someone that has a lot of background, has some more certifications, that we don't have to actually outsource for those things, and then they could oversee the night staff to make sure that they're running effectively.
And is that position, since is there currently a maintenance supervisor for our school?
No. Well, there's a facilities manager, but not a supervisor.
And is there one also at Pinelands?
Facilities manager? Yes.
And has that person also been from other school districts where all of a sudden a night custodial position needs to be created?
Say that again?
Did that person also work at other school districts where all of a sudden a night custodial supervisor position needs to be created?
No.
So this hasn't happened at other school districts where that supervisor worked?
Which supervisor?
The maintenance supervisor, I guess, at Pinelands?
The facilities manager at Pinelands. I'm sorry, I'm not following your question.
The person who's in charge of maintenance over at Pinelands?
Yes.
Where we have never had a second shift or night shift custodial supervisor?
We have foremen there right now.
Did they come from a position where the nighttime position was also created at previous school districts where that supervisor worked?
I don't know. I'm not really following your question very well, but if this is a Pinelands question,
because it's
you
like
can.
shared services for a position that we never needed before, yet our teachers are going without, it just seems unnecessary.
Right, and as I said, we're still within our budget, so we're not creating new funds for any of this.
No, but it could be allocated differently, could it not?
No, it's staying within the maintenance and facilities budget, and that's where we plan for this year, and that's where it's staying.
Oh, so we didn't plan enough money for our teachers?
This isn't a question, this is a comment, and this has nothing to do with our teachers. This has to do with our facilities and maintenance department. Has nothing to do with our teachers.
Well, I had a question.
Let me just point out that this is a public comment period, not a question and answer period. Your comment is limited to 3 minutes. You have a minute left.
Okay, every time I ask a question, nobody seems to be able to answer, so that's the comment.
I just answered about
I
25
believe
questions.
the superintendent did answer your question.
I disagree.
Oh, no, sorry, you didn't understand it. Anyone else? Moving on, before we go to board forum, the business administrator would like to make a statement.
The Little Lake Harbor Township Board of Education and the Little Lake Harbor Township Education Association are currently bargaining a successor agreement to the current contract, which expired June 30th, 2018. To date, the parties have been unable to reach an agreement on a new contract. Up until this point, the boards refrained from public comment in order to allow the negotiations process to continue unimpeded by external factors. The perception that the board has acted in any way other than in good faith and ethically is factually and legally inaccurate. The board feels that there is no choice but to respond and address any misconceptions potentially held by the public. First, the board recognizes and appreciates its teachers. The board will continue to negotiate with its teachers in good faith and foster mutual and continuous respect. The association represents over 150 teachers employed by the board. The salaries and health benefit costs for these members is over $13 million a year. Currently, Little Lake Harbor Township teachers' salaries rank first among the 7 similarly sized and economically equivalent districts throughout the state, and exceed the salaries of those districts by $4,500 per year in each category compared. The board salaries also exceeded the average salaries of Ocean County districts by $3,400 per year. Little Lake Harbor Township salaries are so exceptional that even absent an increase, the 2017-18 teacher salaries exceed the average 18-19 salary of those 7 similarly and economically equivalent districts by $3,400 in every category. Currently, 88% of school districts in the state of New Jersey continue to utilize Chapter 78 to calculate employee health benefit payments. The current CBA contained language which froze employment payments at the amounts which were paid on June 30th, 2016. As a result, the board was solely responsible for all increases in health insurance costs since this date, which is a sum exceeding $135,000. Since beginning negotiations, the board has taken the position that it, and thereby the Little Lake Harbor Township residents, cannot and should not be solely responsible for the growth in health insurance premiums. The board faces a significant loss in state funding over the next 6 years. Over that period, the state will cut $2.2 million from the Little Lake Harbor Township budget. This is 10% of the general fund budget is being cut. In 2018-19 alone, the board is going to lose $243,000 in state aid and is anticipating another $161,000 lost in the 19-20 budget cycle that's just beginning. As a result of these decreases in state funding, the board cannot agree to the proposals made by the association, which continue to both shift sole responsibility for the cost of health insurance to the board and disproportionately increase employee salaries. If the BOE agrees to an above-average salary proposal, when paired with the anticipated loss of state funding and continued freeze in employee health benefit insurance payments, this will require the district to make reductions in force, RIFs, layoffs of staff members. And these RIFs will need to occur in numerous budget cycles in order to ensure compliance with the 2% cap. This will require significant increases in class sizes and cuts in programs. Our class sizes are currently 23-to-1. It's a desirable ratio. The board is working diligently to enhance the quality of education while agreeing to terms and conditions consistent with the present economic climate in Little Lake Harbor and the best interests of our children and the taxpayers. The board's optimistic that a settlement will ultimately be reached on a successor agreement. After meeting with a state-appointed mediator, the parties agreed to proceed to the next stage, fact-finding. So similar to mediation, a state-appointed fact-finder met with the parties last night. The board anticipates a second meeting with the fact-finder in the next month. In the event that no agreement is reached, the fact-finder shall issue a recommendation for settlement after considering the information presented by both parties. The board is aware of the economic impact that the school budget will have on taxpayers, and as such, the board seeks a new contract which is mutually beneficial and fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to board four. Sir. Mr. Molesky.
No, just a quick congratulations to our volunteers of the month and our students of the month, as well as our presenters. Thank you very much.
Dr. Gross.
Certainly like to thank all the reports, certainly the good things that are going on in the classroom, and especially the third grade students that reported to us. I learned a lot from third graders.
Thank you. June.
I was just going to say it's very refreshing to listen to the children report on what's going on in their various areas. And I'd say we're in for some good public speakers down the road, maybe possible board members when they grow up.
Mr. Becker.
Yeah, I just want to again say great job to Haley, Emma, and Preston on their presentations to the board. Congratulations to the students of the month. Thank you, Jackie, for the presentation. Thank you to the building principals on the quick presentations. Good luck to the PTO on their vendor fair. And again, thank you, Trina, for your efforts on energy conservation. Always looking out for our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Vice President. Pass. I'd just like to congratulate all the presenters today, all the students of the month, and that's it. I have nothing else moving on. I don't see a need for a second executive. May I have a motion for adjournment?